Welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, your gateway to the tropes and trends of the horror genre. This is episode 161, and we are talking about the worst films we saw in 2022. This is Mike Campbell, and I am joined by
Eric Lee
and
Liz Williams,
who are not the worst in 2020.
Aww.
Those were the highlights of 2022. This garbage that we're going to talk about tonight it's garbage.
Yep.
It is garbage.
And Mike,
and I said this before at the last episode when we were talking about things we're looking forward to in 2023. I think, and I'll say it again, 2022 was the best year of horror I've experienced as a horror movie podcaster. It was also the worst year of horror I have experienced as a horror movie podcaster. I saw the best things I've ever seen this last year. I saw the worst things.
It was very Dickensian.
It is very Dickensian. The best.
Yes, it was.
It was the worst of times.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it also says there was a lot of stuff.
We did see a lot of stuff. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff we had to sort through.
I think I described it in the last recording was that it was the ice cream truck going around the neighborhood and everybody laid siege to the ice cream truck and they took anything that was in there.
Yeah.
And left not a whole lot for 2023, but in the end maybe there was a secret stash because we actually came up with a bunch of movies.
There was a lot of great films.
But there was
all that was left in the ice cream truck is the stuff from the Shaky Shivers ice cream store.
Ooh, right. And we'll be going there.
Deep cut.
So Mike, do you know how many horror movies you saw last year?
How many I saw? No.
From 2022?
I was probably, I would say if I was take a wild guess, I was probably watching 2.5 a week, maybe.
So that would put.
Yeah.
No, new ones, 2022 releases.
2022. I don't know. I would say probably 75 to 100.
Whoa.
Total.
Yeah. So
like old and new.
Oh, old and new. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I rewatched Nightmare on Elm Street. I rewatched Jaws. I rewatched Jaws 2. I rewatched Jaws 3. I rewatched Jaws 4. Yeah.
So when as we are talking about the movies of 2022,
right.
And how many they came up with, I was surprised at how many movies I watched.
How many did you watch?
I saw 61 movies from 2022.
61 from 2022.
Yeah, all 2022 releases.
I didn't track. I'm going to track this year, but I would say I'd probably be in the 40 range.
Yeah.
And I think, of course, when you go to Overlook and you see all the as many movies as you can, you go to Overlook, and then when Popcorn Fights comes out, and you get a bunch of streamers, and I did Another Hole in the Head. Did H.P. Lovecraft, did Portland Horror. So that's where you stockpile a bunch of them. But I actually went into the theaters to see a bunch of other original releases, including some notable things like the new Scream movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
we'll talk about that in a
minute. And we saw, you and I saw X in the theater.
Yep.
Nope.
So you saw 61. If you were to give those 61 a collective grade, what would you give those 61? If you mush them all together into a single film, how would you grade
average
2022?
I actually did this.
What?
I actually.
Oh my god!
I gave a star ranking.
This is not a setup either.
Yeah,
no.
I did a star
this
ranking.
Is not
for every
a
movie
setup.
That I saw. I think it's 3.5.
Okay.
3.5.
That's pretty good.
3.5 out of 5.
Okay.
I saw more good movies than bad.
Okay.
That's
but
the
I
goal
saw
of every
plenty
year.
But it also tells you I had of movies rated 4 or better, 28.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
That still seems like a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Those would all be strong recommendations.
Yeah.
But I also had anything that was I had 18 of them were less than 3.
Okay.
So
Okay.
those were not great.
All right. Anything get a 0?
I still
Nothing got a 0. I didn't see anything that offended me and made me angry this year.
Okay.
I
Liz, what would you
But I
give?
gave him a 1.
Liz has got. We know what her number. Her
I
0
did.
star. If
Yeah.
she could go negative stars, she'd give it a negative star.
What would you give 2022, Liz, if you were to give it a collective
because I
grade?
turn things off,
Uh-huh.
I will probably give it a 4.
Yeah.
But it's really a 3.
Yeah. Because if anything that you turn off is a 2 or worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Then that
I mean, looking through my reviews, I gave 1 2-star review,
Mm-hmm.
1 1-star review, a pretty good handful of 2.5 to 3.5 star reviews, and then some 4s and 5s. So yeah, mixed bag. But I'd say like all in all, solid year. That mine would come up to be probably about a 4 because I turn stuff off.
All right.
Yeah, I only had 3 5-star reviews.
Okay.
Out of all 61, I had 3 5 stars.
I think I've only done 1 5-star review on the Scariest Things podcast, and that was the Black Phone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. I know.
Amazing.
All right. Well, we're not here to talk about good 5-star movies.
Mike
No.
Mike was suffering from a bout of leprosy.
Yeah.
And missed out on our top 10 of the year. So we're gonna do the bottom of it. I think we talked about doing bottom 3. This might be a bit of a grab bag and just sort of like in a kind of a sloppy way to codify how we feel about the best. We're gonna go round and around until we're sort of done with beating up on these films, I think.
Yeah. Heck
So,
yeah. We'll start us off.
Liz, why don't you go ahead and you just
Okay.
take this
I will jump into mine with the least bad movie of the bad movies, and that is Scream.
Yeah.
I don't know what number Scream 5.
Scream. It was Scream 5.
Mm-hmm.
6. Okay. All right. So I gave it a 2 out of 5, and I like we were talking about before, I forgot that I even reviewed this. We all reviewed it together, but I don't even remember writing anything about it. Like that is how this movie saw it, walked out of the theater and was like, well, that just happened. That was a dumb idea. And then never thought about it again until they announced that they're going to do another one.
Yeah.
And neither Courtney Cox nor Nev Campbell are returning. Obviously, David Arquette's not returning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's all the youngsters who made a mess of this new one. I don't know. Maybe it's just kids in the 90s versus kids these days. That just could be me because I'm an old person. But they were trying to be clever. It didn't work out. They had to end up explaining everything. There were too many characters. I don't know.
Yeah. I felt like
bad.
I felt like the meta horror monologues that they would have it was a constant drumbeat of these meta horror self-referential dialogues, and it was such a tired exercise of we're the smartest guy in the room.
Right.
Whereas the first couple they dribbled it out a lot more judiciously. This one, it was
it was funnier.
It was goddamn
they were in on the
every
joke.
scene where they were just beating you over the head with how much they know or don't know about horror movies, and it
ended up being don't know. Like
Yeah,
how many
I
times
think
can you
so.
talk about the Babadook? Like we get it. You
Right.
saw like that. It was like a phenomenon movie.
The Babadook was the stand-in for thinky smart horror.
Right.
Yeah, but I did it because we do what we do.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciated the fact that they would touch on the current state of what kinds of films we're getting nowadays compared to the stuff that was produced in the 90s when the original Scream was done.
Sure.
So I found that was the only thing that I found compelling. But my notes, I also gave it 2 stars. I had written down mediocre, do better.
The lead actress was terrible.
Yeah. The new characters are no good.
Yeah.
The twist was lame.
You gave it 2.5.
I gave it 2.5?
Yeah. I gave it 2.5. Liz gave it 2.
I gave it 2.
Okay.
I don't even know why I gave it 2.5 because I think I agree with your assessment, which is I walked out of the theater and went, well, that just happened.
Yeah. Like, well, there we go. Okay.
All right. Who's going next? Eric, you going next?
Sure.
All right.
There was a movie that was done at Overlook. We talked about this already. this is Shaky Shivers. You probably you may never get a chance to do Shaky Shivers because they might just give up on this one and not ever release it to a wide audience because it really doesn't deserve to be. It's got bad editing. Its story is all over the map. It starts out as a werewolf movie that had a little bit of promise. I think Mike described it as like a 4-star movie for the first 5 minutes and then a 1-star movie for the rest.
Something like that, yeah. Because there is a great authenticity between the two main characters, the two female leads, and they have really
chemistry.
Great chemistry and
it was like an earnest movie, but then it
wonderful
just
dialogue
went off the rails.
Kitchen sink.
So
it was like make up your mind. And it's not. I don't hold it against a movie to try and do a lot of things like Phantasm, right? That's an example of mixing a lot of stuff in making a good stew out of it. Shaky Shivers was a bunch of half thought out ideas that sort of were left out in the sun to dry out, and just it was boring. It wasn't scary at all. It ceased being funny after the first 15 minutes, and then we just felt I was looking at my watch and was like, well,
it too became a little too self-referential. Not in the same way that Scream did, but it became too self-referential in terms of its the kitchen sink approach to every last horror trope imaginable.
Right, and I do feel a little bit bad beating up on indie productions, but it's like, come on, you come up with a good core idea and stick with it.
It was made by the guy from Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Asian guy. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. don't lump me in with all the Asians. No. All right.
The guy from Tokyo Drift.
Yeah. Him.
I think Shaky Shivers
He's
is out.
got good looks. It can fall back on those.
Shaky Shivers have they released it? Is it on Shudder?
I don't know if it's on Shudder, but I think it's out. It's actually kind of a cool poster too. So Shaky Shivers got something.
I think the poster was good at Overlook.
Yeah, Shaky Shivers got something right.
Well, Shaky Shivers. I mean,
we got in line.
Yeah, we weren't turned off by the original premise, but it didn't really. Yeah, nothing connected.
No.
All right. This is a film that did you and I see this? I can't even remember. This is, of course, the Ty West, the second in the Ty West
Missed it.
triptych, Pearl.
Oh, you didn't see it?
I said Pearl will be one of the more divisive films of the year. It will end up on some best of lists, but it could very well end up on some worst of lists.
Right here.
Why? Simple, really. It's an uneven film. It contains some rather shocking bits, but it's also equally underwhelming. There is a scene in Pearl, and for all the folks out there that hate me for saying Pearl is a crappy film, because it's really not a very good film, and I think it could have been so much better. It felt incredibly rushed. There is a great monologue towards the end of Pearl that she gives, which is a chilling bit of business, and frankly, I think she should probably be up for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for that monologue, because it is something else. And I've never quite seen a film shot or a monologue shot exactly that way. But the film in total, you just don't care about Pearl. I
agree.
I was not invested in her. I was not invested in the story. And at the end of the day, I was just like, I don't really care about this woman or her story or any of it, coupled with the fact that all the actions she takes throughout the entire film don't feel like there is a clear reason for those things to take place.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there wasn't enough connectivity between Pearl and X, so it's supposed to be a quote unquote origin story. Well, they end Pearl, what is she, like 22, and then in X she's 70 something? What about the other 50 years in there?
Well, does it set up a baseline that you understand why she is the way she is?
Not really.
Kind of, sort of, but mostly
not enough.
Mostly not.
I was just disappointed in it. Which is almost worse than thinking it was bad. I thought it looked really beautiful. Mia Goth is great, but it was just like, this is it.
Well, let me ask you this: does it drag your opinion down of X having seen Pearl?
No.
In fact, it enhanced my opinion of X. In fact, I went back and rewatched X and went, yeah, this is a far superior product, and it's a really exciting film, and it further diminished my opinion of Pearl after having seen X again.
We love you, Ty West.
We still love you,
we
Ty.
love you, Ty West.
We love you, Ty West. But this just felt like a very, and I know that was the whole design idea behind this, was that they were already in New Zealand and they figured out if they just go ahead, they could hastily shoot a prequel, and that's exactly what they did. I mean, he and Mia Goth wrote the story, and it looked very forced. And it was kind of, I mean, it is, and I think you just said this, Liz, but it's a beautiful looking film, and it's really fascinating. And a lot of people obviously drew allegory to Wizard of Oz. Yeah, and there was a lot of there was some nods to the early 1900s and filmmaking at the time, and so forth and so on. But it was even that presentation of kind of what was going on in the early 1900s was pretty uneven. It felt very, very uneven.
Bummer.
Yeah. So Pearl, no good. No bueno.
Liz.
Okay. Do we want to do Robert's?
Oh, sure.
Robert's number 3 is Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does this end up on your list too,
yeah,
Mike? Okay.
Robert and I.
All right, we'll talk about it then. I'll read Robert's comments then. So I'll go to mine. My number 2 is a movie that I didn't finish. I got farther in it, but Mike finished it after I said this might be the worst movie I've ever seen, and that is The Scary of 61st, which Mike gave a 1 star to. I would probably have given it half a star since I only made it like 25 minutes in.
Wait, I was gonna include this, but I read and I thought it came out in 2021, not 2022.
No, it was 20.
Oh, well.
It may have been released in 2021, like on the festival circuit, but it was definitely 2022.
Okay, well, it's on my list too.
This is Jeffrey Epstein horror. It's probably the worst acting I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, I could do this acting. I can't even talk about it. It's so bad. Well, this came up on our Scariest Things little messaging thread when Chris, one of our
Chris Cleland,
good contributors and like always talking about cool movies, says, has anybody seen this movie? And I was like, oh, it was on my list of what I'm going to watch. What do you think? He's like, I think you should watch it. And then I was like, oh my God. He's like, yeah, I know. It's mind blown.
Did he apologize?
He was just like, he wouldn't say anything though, but he's like, I think you should watch it. I was like, what do you think of it? What is this? No, just watch it and let me know what you think. It's like, you're the worst. But all in good fun. And then I remember like texting you guys and being like, I just watched this. Mike's like, I'm going to watch it. And you did. Thank you for finishing it. How this is also on DVD from Vinegar Syndrome and streaming and made it to the festival circuits, I do not know. This girl who made this movie must know someone. Dasha Nekrovska. It's probably one of the worst things I've ever seen. Whew. Terrible acting. I don't even know if it's a horror movie though.
The only good thing I'll say about it is kind of an interesting story in that they took a well-known socio-political figure, Jeffrey Epstein, and twisted the story around to it being Jeffrey Epstein having an apartment in Manhattan that was a black ops site for like satanic ritual
by all the
orgies. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of interesting.
Come for the politics and leave for the
satanic ritual
bad acting.
orgy. Yeah.
Dude, it was just such a shitty looking film, shitty acted film. It like looked like garbage. Yep. So I agree. Maybe in better hands, it could have been.
Yeah, in better hands, I think
satire, but didn't work. Didn't work.
In better hands, it could have been a very, very interesting piece of work. But in this, not so much. Sorry, Dasha.
It was in the wrong hands. Yeah, sorry. It was terrible. And normally I would never include something I didn't finish, but there was no way I was going to finish this film. Literally no way.
Yeah, I think. Did you finish your number 1? You bailed on your number 1
I did.
Too.
I turned it off and went back to it so I could review it.
Oh, Liz, sucker for punishment. Okay.
Yep.
Well,
we'll talk about that in a minute.
So my number 2 is I probably should have known better. But I saw a trailer for it at Overlook, and this is a film called Unhuman.
You should have known better.
I should have known better.
They were hyping this at
Overlook. It was
like before every single
Yep.
film. They
I
would
was
show
like,
the
I don't know, it doesn't look
trailer.
great, but I'll give it a shot. And it's like I was trying to be a completionist. I was, this is Eric trying to do a marathon of just making sure I see enough movies for the year to actually be able to respond. This one was one I probably should not. I bailed.
Yeah,
I bailed after 2/3 of this movie because I kind of knew where it was going. I was like, I don't care. I'll read. I have no concerns about reading the trailer description. Okay, a group of high school students whose school bus crashes on a field trip.
Right.
Relationships are tested once they realize they are being stalked by an attacker who intends to drive them out and straight into a horrifying fight to survive. In other words, they kind of tried to do a zombie movie.
Right.
But they didn't do. It was just. They didn't invest in any makeup effects or gore. It might have been like, 28 Days Later or The Crazies, but it was awful, awful zombie stuff. It was loud and obnoxious. It had terrible acting. It was just generic to the core. It made me feel old because, or at a certain point, it's like, these kids these days, and the characters that you were supposed to root for were saccharine and everybody was a cardboard cutout.
Right.
The less said about it, the better. Don't watch this movie if you have to pay for it. If you want to just.
I think it's streaming for free right now on Amazon.
Yep.
Unhuman.
It looked so bad, Eric.
It was. I know. I should have known. I gave it a chance. I thought, it's like, but then again, because I'll tell you the other movie that was the reason why I actually was willing to go in on this one was because the other movie that they were pushing in front of Overlook was the country music horror one. With
Lonely
Torn Hearts.
Torn Hearts. Yeah. And I watched Torn Hearts and I thought it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Not great.
Yeah.
I gave it 3.5.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I went, all right, well, now I'll go see the other one they were pushing. It's like, damn it, Overlook, you sold me, you sold me bad goods.
Billy Goods.
They're like, no, someone paid us to put that trailer.
That's right. That was
that's how we got you your press pass.
Damn it.
All right, is this the part where we talk about Halloween Ends?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
No, Halloween Ends, terrible film. Very polemic. Interestingly, I think that was the thing that shocked me the most was that there was enough folks out there. If you read through all the message boards and social media and everything else, there was enough folks out there that I think have such a deep and undying love for Michael Myers that they just couldn't recognize this as a bad film. I too have a deep and undying love for Michael Myers, but to
a point where we, Liz and I will tease Mike about this.
This is a terrible film, and I'll tell you why. Because they for the final installment, they introduce an entirely new character who has nothing to do with Laurie Strode or Michael Myers or Dr. Loomis. It's Corey. And I think Corey, who becomes the Michael Myers serial killer in training, will go down as probably one of the worst horror movie characters of all time.
And actually, that influenced heavily by the fact that you have a legend at your disposal.
Right. And I think in this case, David Gordon Green, Danny McBride et al. Wrote themselves into a corner. I think that's what happened. I don't think it's any more complicated than that.
You don't think they wrote themselves into Halloween's not ending? Corey is taking over?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. We're going to have Corey now.
Corey Ween?
Yeah. I would go see Corey Ween. I would go see Corey Ween. If it's named Corey Ween. If they call it Corey Ween, I will go see Corey Ween. No, it was an incredibly disappointing way to end a 40-year run by introducing this entirely new character, again, that had nothing to do with Michael Myers. And the story was so so unbelievable that Michael Myers would have a young protege and he would, through, I'm assuming, pantomiming and mimicking serial killing, or they had a psychic connection. I don't know.
Hot mess.
Either way, it didn't make a goddamn bit of sense. And Corey is not just a bad character. The guy that plays Corey, whose name I'm gonna Rowan Campbell, terrible actor. Terrible actor. Sorry,
no.
Rowan Campbell. You are not a good actor. On a positive note, because I'll end everything on a positive note, Jamie Lee Curtis is great in the film. She is absolutely.
Did they give her more than the 5 minutes they gave her in Halloween? Kills.
She's great. Although it does end up with a scene where you have like Born Identity septuagenarians wrestling in the kitchen over knives, which also seemed entirely ridiculous. But Jamie Lee Curtis was great in the film. She's a great actress, no question there. She turned in a wonderful performance. Everything else about the film is terrible. I gave it 2 stars. I should have given it 1.
Yeah. On the level of expectations, the what you wanted it to be to what you got.
It's probably 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
Womp womp.
All right. So looking forward to Corey Ween.
Corey Ween coming 2024. We'll write it.
And
Robert's Jeepers Creepers Reborn. And I think Robert's the only one of us who saw this.
Yeah,
Thank you, Robert,
Thank
for
you.
taking it for the team. So, I will, since none of us saw it, I'll read Robert's little synopsis. In an alternate Jeepers Creepers universe from the first 3 films, Lainey gets dragged out to the quote-unquote best horror convention ever by her genre nerd boyfriend. Out of the middle of nowhere, our heroine mingles with the 7 to 12 other people who've managed to stumble onto the patch of dirt where the convention is being held. After a series of unrelated scenes, including a cosplay montage by our leading lady, the creeper shows up to shyly kill a couple of people off screen. In the end, he's embarrassed to death by the atrocious CG effects used in the film's finale. So,
no Jeepers Creepers.
Robert said, I was hoping for the best. It's directed by the Iron Sky guy, Timo Voronsolo, and stars Sidney Craven, who is a full-on Taekwondo champion, for pity's sake. Less cosplay, more punchy-kicky. Oh, well, maybe next time. I love that Robert ends on that positive note of, if there's another Jeepers Creepers, he will watch it.
Oh, God.
Maybe next time.
So which Jeepers Creepers is this?
4.
This is Jeepers Creepers 4.
Yeah,
Jeepers
4.
Creepers Reborn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it doesn't.
Reborn.
And they've gotten rid of the problematic director, the
oh, right.
the child raping.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a real creeper.
Yep.
But the original Jeepers Creepers, and even the second one, was a pretty good movie. And that's all before we knew about this guy.
The first one was solid. First one was pretty solid.
That was scary.
Mm-hmm.
That was good.
All right.
Not this one.
Nope.
Okay.
No,
are we on me?
Here, Liz gets to go beat up
my
on
number one, worst movie of the year, The Sadness.
Yep.
Rob Jabaz's Taiwanese zombie movie. Period. Done. Mean. Misogynistic.
Zombie rape.
Gross zombie rapers.
Yeah.
So don't see it or see it. I'm in like the minority. Like I'm minority, but like there's a lot of people who freaking think this thing is like it pushed the limits, it did all that, and I was like, these are just the limits that didn't need to be pushed at this time in our lives in the world.
Yep,
push some other limits before that nasty sexual stuff came. The first scene in the like ramen shop or whatever, where the old lady becomes a zombie and you see how fast this spreads. I was like, this movie is going to be amazing. And then I was like, this movie is disgusting.
No, the first
turned it off,
first
went
half
back the
hour,
next day and said,
super solid.
Finish.
First half hour, super solid.
Mm-hmm.
What else has Rob Jabaz done? Do we know? Do we know what Rob Jabaz is responsible
for? Let me click on my little
for?
link and see what it brings us to. The Sadness. He's a self-taught animator and has animated some shorts and done some music videos and commercials.
Okay. Well, Liz, I will tell you this.
He's Canadian.
Oh, okay.
But he grew up in Taiwan.
I don't think you are alone in your dislike of the sadness. I largely, I think, agree with you about the film, and for the same reasons why you think the sadness is not a good film or, frankly, a repugnant film. And I've talked to several other people, and they too had the same feeling. So I have yet to talk to anybody who is totally gung ho about the sadness, and I think a lot of the of the sadness comes from an unfortunate and very deplorable bro culture that seems to be ruining our lives these days.
Yeah. Now, actually, when I wrote the review, it had a 91 on Rotten Tomatoes. Now it has an 89 and a 62 for the audience score. So it's at least coming down.
Yeah, that's good.
But I don't think. Yeah, the critics.
We got to get ourselves on the Rotten Tomatoes here, Liz. That's our goal. We got to be able to get to be a little bit more of an influencer.
I would be interested to see how many of the critics who loved it are men.
Oh, there you go.
Just saying.
Yeah.
They do love themselves some zombie rape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Though there's just something. It's not going to bother them in the same way that it.
Right.
I don't know.
Yep.
It's the wrong time in our world for this kind of for that to be the only new thing you're going to bring to the zombie genre.
Yeah.
Nah, keep it.
Rob Jabaz, know better, do better. Come on.
Do better. Yeah. Do better.
All right, Eric, what was the worst film of the year?
Well, okay, now, granted, I think that all three of the movies that I'm discussing here, I gave a 1.5 stars. This is a movie that was played heavily on the...
Did you... going back to your tabulation earlier, did you have a 0-star film?
No 0 stars. Okay. These three are all 1.5s.
Okay.
This is Revealer.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't watch this.
We saw this at Portland Horror Film Festival.
I hated this.
Yeah.
Joseph liked this one.
He was being nice.
Okay.
Joseph's too nice. I talked to him, and he kind of
Joseph, come on the podcast and defend yourself.
So this is, the premise, I thought, it had potential.
Yeah.
Because this was a
great premise.
The apocalypse is coming. Hell is coming. And there's a Pentecostal evangelist, uptight girl flees to the safety of a peep show, like a Jack Shack kind of a place where there's a stripper in behind the glass who is having a slow day because everybody out in the rest of the world is dying because the apocalypse has come. And not surprisingly, the two of them team up, and they begin to find they start on opposite ends of the spectrum of personalities and politics, and they come to become best friends.
It's a match made in
hell. All right, now so premise, not a bad premise.
Yeah,
it was bad. It was repetitive, and the way it didn't help that neither of the actresses was convincing.
No,
I didn't believe for a second that the church girl was as pristine as she set out to be. She was also drawn to be. They were both very unappealing characters.
Right.
And probably, the stripper didn't look like a stripper. And just felt like there was a lot of politicking going on. And it was not sexy, kind of boring.
Yep.
Should have been raunchy, wasn't raunchy. It's just, and they get caught in a maze below the strip club trying to get out, trying to save each other's respective families. But what they end up doing is they just end up yelling at each other, wandering around in a labyrinth for 2 hours.
One of the things that bugged me about the film was they decided to very pointedly set the film in the 1980s, and they make a big point out of saying this is set in the 1980s. But other than the stripper wearing acid wash jeans, which are really kind of a late 80s thing,
right?
That's just to get rid of cell phones. That's all.
Yeah.
I was like, you could have pretty much done this anywhere, anytime. You didn't need to set it in the 80s.
It was everything about it just felt like half thought out.
Mm-hmm.
And the monologuing was uninspired, and there was a lot of monologuing. It was,
I
and
think this hit a couple of festivals though and had decent reviews. That's why
I
didn't
know.
watch it
Hey,
though. It's just like the premise didn't appeal to me.
no, it was. I mean, it if they had gone full Grindhouse,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
if they had gone the way, say, if they did X,
Mm-hmm.
which actually was full on raunchy,
Yeah.
without being obscene,
Right.
Right.
raunchy, but raunchy and fun. This was.
I think there's a story there. I think
like-
I think there is a story there
Yeah,
because
they-
it's legitimately it's a good premise. I think there's a good story there.
I think it needed
there's
a much.
there's the positive note we
It
can
needed
end on.
it needed a much better script and better actresses.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the worst film of the year got 1 out of 5 stars. I'd even go 0. This is directed by Lee Van Keet. It's a Vietnamese film.
Uh-oh.
The Requin.
Oh.
Which I think the Requin is allegedly translates to shark. Yeah. So I said laughably bad CGI, overcooked and undercooked use of green screen almost simultaneously, a shrill, bothersome, and awkward performance by Alicia Silverstone, and you don't even get to see sharks until the 50-minute mark.
Oh man.
It is a gargantuan turd. And throughout the whole film, as I said in my review, I was cheering for the shark the whole time. I was just like, come on, shark, you got this. Like couple more chomps.
Once you saw the shark.
Yeah. Yeah, once you saw the shark. But the thing that was funny about it is they didn't even really bother to do CGI per se with the sharks, a la Sharknado or Sharktopus or Piranaconda. They used stock shark footage.
Oh no.
And I kept looking at it going, the completely absurdist shark zombie fight in Zombie, 1979's Zombie, was way more interesting.
Well, that is great.
And it's, that's one of the most absurd.
Zombie versus tiger shark. That was
most absurd,
really cool.
ludicrous scenes in horror movie history.
Yeah.
That was way better than The Requin. The Requin is a terrible film, and which is really too bad. And I'll end again on a positive note, because Alicia Silverstone has been in some good stuff, and I think she's a pretty good actress. And she was in 2019, largely regarded, I think, by most of us as one of the best films we had seen that year, The Lodge. And she was great, even though she had a smaller
blink and you miss her moment, but
performance. But it's too bad that she signed up for this thing because this film is a goddamn mess.
Yeah. What would we say? She got to eat.
She got to eat.
Yep.
Alicia Silverstone
Gotta
got to
pay the
eat.
bills.
It's like who there was the Dungeons and Dragons film that it brought out Jeremy Irons.
Oh yeah.
And you going, man, what are you doing?
Has to pay the bills.
Has to pay the bills. Oh, so
all right.
bad. So
I'm going to stay on creature feature for Roberts.
Yes.
Because Robert's number one worst or most disappointing film of the year is Beast. So Robert says, in Beast, Idris Elba goes to Africa with 2 young girls who, judging by the group's on-screen chemistry, he's never met before in his life. He is then stalked by a beautifully animated Terminator lion that's nearly indestructible, has razor-sharp claws, a mouthful of dagger-like teeth, and outweighs him by roughly 350 pounds. Nevertheless, our man Idris beats it in a fist fight and saves the day. Really wanted to like this one, but not even Idris Elba could save it. I agree. I watched this on the plane. I am a huge Idris Elba fan, and I turned it off. I couldn't even look at that pretty face to keep watching that movie. I was like, this is so bad.
Yeah.
He is so right about the chemistry between the 2 young women actors, and it was the worst.
No, the kid actors couldn't act.
Yeah.
They couldn't.
And
Sharko Copley, the other guy who played his buddy
from
District 9.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to like this movie so much because the
all of us did.
The director did the Everest a movie, and he's done a bunch of great survival horror or thriller movies. And I was like, Idris Elba punching lions. I'll go for that for
Yeah, I'm in. Yeah.
And it's like I and one of the great things that I've ever done in my whole life was a safari, and it was like, all right, I get to relive some of that. It's like,
But you didn't do the punching variety.
Yeah,
No,
you didn't get
the
the
lion
lions.
punching variety.
Did you?
I just went out and I was just punching guinea fowl. I mean, it was much easier. No,
Take this bird.
take that. No, it was, Idris Elba's. I mean, it really felt like he got signed on in the last minute to do this thing, and running around telling the kids to go, okay, get in the back of the car. No, get back in the other seat. And there's like, it. And the lion was, as Robert was describing, it's a Terminator lion. It was like this indestructible thing. Car goes off the cliff, lands on the lion, explodes. Lion's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, come on.
I walked away from this film when I saw the trailer, and I was like, oh no, I won't be seeing the beast.
Yeah, I wanted to. I think this was one where I walked into it with eyes open, and it was like, sorry. I gave it 2.5.
I was on the plane.
It was pretty. Much. It was a good looking film.
But,
Idris. No.
All right, but one more film. One more. This is the worst. This is truly the worst. And I can show you the page. I forgot because the page break.
Oh, what you got?
The page break got me, and it was hidden right below the page break. This is a film directed by David Blue Garcia. This is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh.
This was maybe even more disappointing than Halloween Ends, because at least Halloween Ends had some chops. It had Jamie Lee Curtis, and granted, they had Sally Hardesty from the original film show up in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but this film was truly, truly awful and incredibly uninspired. And I'm not going to end on a positive note here. I'm going to end on a negative note, because the thing that was really frustrating was one of the writers was Fede Alvarez, and the
did
fact,
he really write it?
Yeah, the fact that he turned in, I thought, what was kind of a really incomplete character study of Leatherface that kind of didn't make a goddamn bit of sense, coupled with the fact that I know this is Eric's gripe with Michael Myers. In this case, Michael Myers was, we'll maybe stretch it and say late 60s, early 70s, whereas Leatherface has got to be pushing mid 80s.
Oh, so they're saying that they tried to do the exact same thing.
Leatherface has been kicking around for 48 years.
Oh God, no! I'm in my 50s, and I know how hard it is just to kind of like run a quarter mile. It's like,
right.
No.
Yeah,
Texas, with a chainsaw. Even.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw is really, really awful, and I hope they let the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise lay down for a little bit and kind of rethink it before they just jump into a new one. Because I legitimately think there are some great Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, not just the original.
First two.
First two. The third one is great. The Matthew McConaughey one is great. Yeah.
But there's some really awful ones too.
Yeah. In the modern era, the 3D one was not.
Oh God, one was just so boring. It was dark. You couldn't see anything.
Right.
And there was it wasn't nearly violent enough.
Right. It was just. Yeah, this one was plenty violent, and it had a lot of blood and a lot of gore, but it seemed really ridiculous. Yeah, do not see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even if you have a Netflix account, do not watch it, because it is a waste of time.
Okay, well, you forgot one.
What? Which one?
I know you've seen it.
Well, which?
Morbius.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, God. This was...
Was that Jared Leto?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do better, Jared Leto.
It was just kind of this one.
I think
that
he's
was
got
not
some problems.
Yeah, it wasn't frustrating as much as it was just a waste of time.
It was dull.
Yeah,
it was
dull. Exactly.
It was, and it was like it's a superhero movie that seemed to be shot in one color.
Right.
And it's like it was a superhero movie that was unexciting. It had a superhero that's like. It's like didn't really establish why he would want to be heroic, and also why he would be monstrous. It was I know it was based on sort of a B-side, Marvel Universe character, who's poorly drawn. I never thought Morbius is a bad looking superhero to begin with, and not it. It was just poor performances, and I think it's famously bad. I mean, this is one that it's like nobody likes this movie. It was, and I didn't finish it. I just
you didn't finish it.
I turned it off. It was like I'm done. I mean, it was just.
I paid money to go see it.
Oh yeah,
I paid money to go see it.
You took your boy to see this.
Yeah.
That's bad parenting right there.
Speaking of lesser-known Marvel characters, I said in my review, just as the Marvel disco heroine Dazzler doesn't need a film, Morbius probably didn't need a shot on the big screen. Actually, Dazzler film does sound pretty darn cool.
Disco,
but we digress.
Roller disco. Well, I think to Marvel's credit, they did come out with a fun movie that, on their horrorverse where they brought out Werewolf by Night.
Oh, right.
Which is a lot of fun. Which is it's right up your alley because it's like an hour and 10 minutes long.
Yeah,
super short. You got Man-Thing in there, and it's shot like a Universal monster movie. It's fun. It does werewolves right. It's great.
And that's on
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
So easy to get to. It's a one-off. It's not going to be a series. It's just like eat some popcorn, watch this thing. It's great.
Yeah.
Don't watch Morbius.
Yeah,
it's a waste of time.
It's just it's dull and underwhelming.
There we go.
All right. So what? Should we recap all of the worst films? I feel like as a PSA, as a public service announcement to the followers of the Scariest Things podcast, we need to tell people these are the films to stay away from, starting with...
Okay, Eric here. Don't see Unhuman. Don't see Shaky Shivers. Don't see Revealer. Don't see Morbius.
Yeah. Liz?
Okay. For myself, I say don't see Scream, don't see The Scary of 61st, and don't see The Sadness. And on Robert's behalf, don't see Halloween Ends, don't see Jeepers Creepers Reborn, and don't see Beast.
All right. Also don't see Halloween Ends. Definitely don't see The Requiem. Maybe see Pearl, but it ain't that great. And definitely do not see The Texas Chainsaw. That's garbage.
We're warning you.
We're warning you. Don't
do it.
So we have a proud tradition at the Scariest Things where we like to close out with a great tagline from one of the movies we watched. And a bit indicative of this, these horrible movies is most of them don't have taglines. And the taglines that we do have suck. So
Hot garbage.
Hot mess. And here to deliver the
worst tagline of the year from Jeepers Creepers Reborn: Death gives it life.